You know that weird moment when you realize you've done something really stupid, but it's already too late to take it back? That's how I felt the night I bought the used phone. I thought I was being smart, saving money. My old phone had died after 6 years of faithful service, and I didn't feel like dropping $1,000 on a new one. I found a listing online. Almost new, factory reset, works perfectly. The seller's name was just Mark, and his messages were polite, almost formal. He even offered to meet in a public place.
So nothing about it felt shady.
We met at a gas station just outside of town. It was getting dark, that strange bluish hour where everything looks half dream, half real. He was waiting by the pumps, tall, thin, wearing a hooded sweatshirt. When he saw me, he smiled. Or, at least I think he did. The light was too dim to be sure. The phone looked spotless. No scratches, no cracks. He handed it over like he was passing off something delicate. "I wiped everything," he said. "It's good to go." His voice was calm, careful, the kind of voice you'd use with a scared animal. I paid him in cash and he drove off. Simple as that. When I got home, I set it up, new number, new wallpaper, the usual. It worked perfectly. For the first few days, I didn't think about it much. Then weird little things started happening. The phone would vibrate once in the middle of the night. No notifications, no missed calls, no messages. Just a single, sharp buzz that woke me up. I'd check the screen, nothing. It happened again the next night. And the next. At first, I thought it was just an app glitch. Maybe something running in the background. But by the fourth night, I was starting to feel watched. You ever get that feeling? Like your own room suddenly feels unfamiliar? Like the corners are holding their breath? I started sleeping with the phone face down on my nightstand, just to keep the light from waking me. But around 3:17 a.m., I woke up again. That same vibration. This time, I swore I saw the screen light up for a second, not with a message but with the camera icon. Like it had opened the camera by itself. I sat there in the dark, staring at it, my heart pounding. My room was dead silent except for the soft hum of my fridge down the hall. The phone lay there, dark again, like nothing had happened. I told myself I was imagining it. Sleep deprivation, maybe. I hadn't been resting well lately, new job stress, bills, all that adult noise that never shuts off. But the next morning, something finally pushed me over the edge. I opened my gallery to check if I'd transferred all my old photos from the cloud. There were hundreds of new ones. At first, I thought maybe the old owner had uploaded them somehow. But when I scrolled through, my stomach dropped. They were all of me sleeping. Different nights, different angles. My face half buried in the pillow. My arm hanging off the bed. My mouth slightly open. Some were so close I could see the pores on my skin. There were over 300 photos. My throat went dry. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. The timestamps were recent, within the last week. Starting from the day I bought it. I ran through every possible explanation in my head. Maybe someone hacked the phone? Maybe it was some insane prank? Maybe there was a camera hidden in my room? But here's the part that really messed me up. Some of the photos were taken from angles that weren't possible. One showed me from above, like the phone had been floating over my bed. Another was from behind the headboard. There was no space back there, just the wall. I remember standing there, shaking, the morning light creeping through my blinds, dust floating in the air like snow. My brain was trying to keep up, but it couldn't. Every logical explanation sounded crazier than the last. I checked the windows, locked. The door locked. No signs of anyone breaking in. Then I noticed something else. The camera app had a folder I hadn't seen before, hidden inside the file manager. It wasn't labeled DCM or camera roll. It had a single symbol instead, a small circle with a vertical line through it, like an old power icon. I opened it. Inside were only 3 videos. The first one was of me sleeping again, same angle, same quiet breathing. The video lasted 15 seconds. Nothing moved. The second one was darker, but I could make out the outline of my body. Halfway through, I saw something that made my skin crawl. The bedsheet shifted slightly, like someone had brushed past the edge of it. I paused it and replayed it again and again, convincing myself it was my imagination. Maybe I'd twitched in my sleep. Then I opened the third video. It started the same, me, asleep. The camera was closer this time, angled toward my face. My breathing sounded steady. Then, at the 6-second mark, the frame shook slightly and a voice whispered, just one word. Soon. I slammed the phone down and felt bile rise in my throat. That's when I noticed something else. The vibration I'd been hearing every night wasn't random. The timestamps of the new photos matched exactly those moments. The phone had been taking pictures of me while I slept, automatically. And I had no idea how. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't. I sat on the edge of my bed for hours, staring at the phone like it was alive. Every few minutes I'd convince myself to throw it out, to smash it, burn it, whatever, but then I'd think, what if I need proof? What if I go to the police and they ask for evidence? So I kept it. Around noon, I connected it to my laptop and started digging. I don't know much about tech, but I watched enough YouTube tutorials to find hidden files and system logs. Most of it looked normal, except for one directory I didn't recognize, sys_cam_demon. It was buried deep, like someone didn't want it to be found. When I opened it, the folder contained hundreds of encrypted thumbnails, all with random strings of numbers. Some were corrupted, some were still visible, and they were all of me, every single one. Some were timestamped from before I even bought the phone. That didn't make sense. I hadn't owned it then, unless it had already been recording someone else. I felt sick. I closed the folder and backed up everything onto an external drive. Then I tried to call the seller, Mark. His number was disconnected. I went back to the online listing, but it was gone. The whole account had been deleted. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. It felt like the walls were closing in, like the air itself was pressing down on me. Then my phone vibrated. One single buzz. I froze. It was sitting on the desk, face down, the same way I'd left it last night. The screen lit up with a notification. New photo saved. I hadn't touched it. Hands shaking, I opened the gallery. There it was, a brand new photo, timestamped just 5 seconds earlier. It showed me, sitting at my desk, staring at the phone. The picture was so clear, so close, that I could see the veins in my eyes. I dropped the phone, stumbled back, and slammed into the wall behind me. Someone or something was taking these photos right now. I yanked the battery out, heart racing so hard it hurt. My breathing sounded loud, unnatural. I stared at the phone's black shell in my hand, wondering if I'd finally lost it. That's when I noticed something carved faintly into the back of the case. Scratches, so shallow, I hadn't seen them before. I turned it under the light. The letters were messy, like they'd been etched with a knife or key. It sees you too. I dropped it again. I wanted to run, out of the house, out of the city, anywhere, but I couldn't move. The fear wasn't sharp anymore. It was heavy, slow, like oil in my veins. After what felt like hours, I forced myself to do something rational, check my room. Every corner, every vent, every outlet. I even pulled the bed away from the wall. Nothing. No cameras. No holes. No wires. But when I looked at the window, something caught my eye. Outside, across the street, parked halfway under a streetlight, was a black SUV. Windows tinted pitch dark. No movement. No one inside. Or, at least no one I could see. I stared at it for a full minute and it didn't move. I closed the blinds. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep. I sat in the living room with every light on, drinking cold coffee and trying to come up with a plan. Around 3 a.m., I finally dozed off on the couch. When I woke up, the phone was sitting on the coffee table in front of me. I hadn't touched it. And the battery, the one I'd taken out, was back inside. My stomach dropped. I didn't even remember bringing the phone downstairs. I was sure I'd left it upstairs on the desk. My first instinct was to throw it in the sink and run the tap, drown it, fry it, but instead, something stopped me. Curiosity, fear, I don't know. The screen was on. There was a new message. Just a single text from an unknown number. Don't move. No sender ID, no name. I looked around, every hair on my body standing on end. The room was silent except for the faint ticking of the wall clock. Another message appeared. Smile. And then the flash went off. I screamed, an ugly, raw sound, and dropped the phone. It hit the floor, face down. The flash had come from the front camera, which meant it had taken a photo of me. I backed up until I hit the wall, chest heaving. I didn't want to pick it up, didn't want to see what was on the screen, but I couldn't stop myself. My hands moved like they weren't mine. There it was, another new photo. It showed me, mid-scream, eyes wide, hands in the air. But behind me, in the reflection of the kitchen window, I saw something. A figure. Not a person exactly, more like a dark outline, standing perfectly still behind the couch. I turned, heart pounding, but there was nothing there. The air felt colder, though. Heavier. I grabbed my car keys and bolted. I didn't even lock the door. I drove until sunrise, out of town, past the gas station where I'd met the seller, down a stretch of road I barely recognized. I pulled into a diner parking lot and sat there, hands shaking on the steering wheel. The phone buzzed again from the passenger seat, even though I'd left it on silent. Another message appeared on the screen. You can't outrun what's already inside. By the time the sun came up, I looked like a ghost in the diner's bathroom mirror. My eyes were red, face pale, fingers trembling so hard I could barely grip the sink. I hadn't slept. Every time I blinked, I saw that photo, my own terrified face, and that shadow standing behind me. I needed answers. I grabbed my phone, carefully this time, like it might bite me, and opened the call log. Nothing. The messages had no number I could trace. But the last text, "You can't outrun what's already inside," was still there, glowing on the screen like a threat. I drove straight to the police station. I rehearsed what I'd say 100 times in my head. Someone's stalking me. I bought a used phone. It's taking pictures on its own. But when I finally stood at the front desk, words failed me. The officer, a tired-looking guy with a coffee stain on his shirt, listened for about a minute before giving me that look. The one people give when they think you're on something. He asked if I had any proof. I showed him the photos. He scrolled through them, frowning deeper with every swipe. These could have been staged, he said. Edited. Deep fakes. I didn't take them, I said, my voice cracking. They appeared by themselves. Look at the timestamps.
He sighed.
Sir, unless you have evidence of a break-in or a suspect, there's not much we can. Then he froze. His thumb stopped mid-scroll.
He turned the phone toward me.
The picture on the screen was one I hadn't seen before, taken maybe seconds ago. It showed me and him, standing at the front desk. From behind. The camera angle was impossible. The officer went pale. He dropped the phone onto the counter like it had burned him. Where's the other person? He whispered. I didn't have an answer. Another officer came over, asking what was going on. The first one muttered something about technical issue and told me to sit down while they checked the system. I could hear them talking quietly in the corner, glancing at me like I was contagious. I left before they could stop me. Outside, the day was blindingly bright. The phone buzzed again in my pocket, and against every instinct I looked. New photo. It showed the police station doors, closing behind me. I drove back to the gas station where I'd bought the phone. I needed to see the place again, to remind myself it was real, that this started somewhere tangible. The clerk behind the counter recognized me. Hey, he said, squinting. You were here last week, right? Met a guy outside.
Yeah.
You remember him? He nodded slowly. Tall, hoodie, weird eyes. He's been hanging around for months. Never bought gas. Just sat in that car of his. What kind of car? The clerk pointed toward the window. Black SUV. Parked across the street. My stomach twisted. The same car from outside my house. I thought you guys were together, the clerk said. He was watching you the whole time. I bolted. When I turned back toward the road, the SUV was gone. That night, I checked into a cheap motel 2 towns over. I told myself it was temporary, just until I figured things out. I locked the door, wedged a chair under the handle, and left the phone charging on the bathroom sink. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, listening to the hum of the neon sign outside. At some point, exhaustion won. I fell asleep sitting up. When I woke, the bathroom light was off. And the phone was gone. The chair was still under the doorknob. No one had come in. The window was shut tight. But the phone wasn't on the sink anymore. I found it on the bed next to me. Unlocked. A new message blinked on the screen. You left the light on. Then the light in the bathroom flickered once, twice, and died completely. I stared at the dark doorway, barely breathing. I told myself it was a power issue, faulty wiring, anything. I reached for the lamp beside the bed. It didn't turn on either. The entire room had gone silent, not even the hum of the neon sign outside. Then came the soft click. The sound of the camera shutter. Once. Then again. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it, coming from the foot of the bed. I lunged forward, grabbing the phone. The screen was dark. No flash this time. I pressed the power button, and the gallery opened automatically. A new photo appeared. It showed me, eyes wide open, lying exactly as I was now. Except, in the photo, something else was visible. Behind me, in the reflection of the mirror on the wall, was a figure sitting on the edge of the bed, right where I was sitting. The outline was human, but the head was tilted at an unnatural angle, like it was studying me. And then, I swear this happened, the photo moved. The reflections had turned slightly, toward me. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and slid under the desk. I sat there shaking, too afraid to move. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. I don't know. When I finally got the courage to crawl across the floor and pick it up, the screen was cracked but still glowing. A notification appeared. Battery low, 1%. Right beneath it. Charging now. The cable wasn't plugged in. When I checked out of the motel the next morning, I felt hollow, like I'd been scraped clean from the inside. The phone was still working. Cracked screen, yes, but alive. I didn't charge it that night, but somehow, the battery hadn't died. 68%. It shouldn't have been possible. I drove without a destination. Gas stations, empty highways, nameless exits. Every so often, I'd see a black SUV in the rearview mirror, sometimes close, sometimes several cars back. Every time I tried to get a better look, it would turn off somewhere. At one point, I stopped on the side of the road and waited. 5 minutes passed.
10.
Nothing. I started the engine again and forced a laugh, but it came out dry and broken. I was losing it. By noon, I reached a town called Fairview, population barely 1,000. A single main street, 2 diners, a church, and a pawn shop with a flickering neon sign that said, "Electronics bought and sold." I went in. The man behind the counter was old, slow-moving, the kind of person who looked like he'd seen everything and forgotten half of it. "Need a repair?" he asked. "Actually," I said, setting the phone down carefully, "I bought this secondhand. I think it's doing things on its own. I just want it wiped completely." He took it, squinted at the cracked screen, tapped it a few times. "Factory reset won't fix it if it's hardware," he muttered. "Some models, they got remote wake functions. Ghost taps, phantom charges." He trailed off, frowning.
What?
I asked. "There's no SIM card in this thing." I blinked. "What are you talking about? I've been using it all week." He turned the phone around, showing me the empty tray. No SIM. No service. Shouldn't even be getting a signal. A cold pressure crawled up the back of my neck. I told him to take it apart, destroy it if he had to. He hesitated, then shrugged and disappeared into a back room with a screwdriver and a sigh. I waited. The tick of a wall clock filled the silence. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then I heard a crash. I ran into the back room. The old man was on the floor, breathing hard, his chair overturned. The phone lay beside him, screen glowing faintly. "What happened?" I asked, kneeling. He didn't answer at first. His eyes were wide, staring at the wall like he'd seen something impossible. Finally, he whispered, "It showed me." "Showed you what?" He pointed at the phone with a trembling hand.
Me. Just now.
Standing right here, but dead. He pushed it toward me like it was poison.
Take it.
"Get it out of here." I grabbed the phone and backed away. By the time I reached the front door, he was muttering something under his breath, eyes fixed on nothing. Outside, the wind had picked up. Dust swirled through the empty street like smoke. I looked at the phone. The screen was dark, but a faint reflection stared back at me, my own face, distorted by the crack. Behind me, in that reflection, was movement. I spun around. Nothing. No people. No cars. Just the sound of the neon sign buzzing above the pawn shop door. I got back into my car and drove. No music this time. No radio. Just the road and the low hum of the engine. After about an hour, the GPS lit up on its own. I hadn't opened it. A blue route appeared across the map, a thin glowing line leading to a location I didn't recognize. Coordinates, not an address. I tried to close it. The app wouldn't shut down. I killed the power, or tried to. The screen stayed on. And then a text appeared over the map. Come back to where it started. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely steer. The phone's voice navigation kicked in, whispering directions through the speakers even though I hadn't connected Bluetooth. Turn left. Keep right. Half a mile. Every turn led me closer to the outskirts of town, past overgrown fields, down a cracked road lined with dead trees. And then I saw it. The gas station. The same one where I'd met Mark. It looked abandoned now. Windows boarded. Pumps rusted and empty. The phone buzzed again. You're almost home. I parked out front and sat there, heart pounding so loud it felt like the whole car was vibrating. The sun was setting behind the trees, throwing long shadows across the lot. I opened the door. The air smelled like rain and gasoline. Inside, the gas station was silent. Aisles covered in dust, a few broken bottles glinting on the floor. My footsteps echoed as I walked toward the back, where the counter used to be. And then, on the far wall, I saw something that made my stomach turn. Photos.
Hundreds of them.
Taped up in neat, overlapping rows. All of me. Sleeping, driving, eating, walking, moments I didn't even remember living. Some from angles that couldn't exist. I felt a pressure in my ears, like the air had thickened. Then I heard a voice.
Soft.
Behind me. You finally came back. I spun around. No one was there. Just the empty doorway, swaying in the wind. Then the phone buzzed in my pocket. Look up.
I did.
Above me, hanging from the ceiling, was a small black security camera, blinking red. I stepped closer, staring up at it, and that's when I realized something. The camera wasn't plugged in. No wires. No power. But the little red light blinked again. And then, the screen of my phone lit up in my hand. Live video. Me standing there, looking up. But in the feed behind me, something was moving.
Slowly.
Crawling out from behind the counter. I turned around. The moment I turned, the air in the gas station shifted, thicker, colder. I didn't see a person, not right away. Just a shape in the dark, crouched low behind the counter. The smell hit first. Something sour, metallic, like wet pennies and old sweat. Who's there? My voice cracked. It sounded too loud, too fragile against the silence. The shape didn't move. I took a hesitant step forward. The floor creaked under my shoes. The phone buzzed in my hand again, a faint vibration that made my skin crawl. The live feed was still open. I forced myself to look. On the screen, the shape was clearer. Pale skin, a face turned just slightly away. The figure's head jerked once, like a glitch in a video file. Then it started to rise. The phone trembled in my hand. I backed up slowly until my shoulder brushed the cold metal of the refrigerator case. Mark, I whispered, though even as I said it, I knew it wasn't him. The figure stood to its full height, taller than I expected, its movements wrong, too slow, too deliberate. The shadows clung to it, hiding most of its features, but I caught flashes, a hollowed cheek, the outline of a jaw that didn't seem to close properly. And then it spoke. You shouldn't have looked. The voice wasn't coming from the figure. It came from the phone's speaker, my voice, distorted, echoing back at me. I dropped the phone. It landed screen up, showing a new live image. The camera now focused directly on my face like someone was holding it from just a few feet away. except no one was. I could see myself on the screen, my chest rising and falling too fast, and behind me, the figure was closer.
I turned and ran.
I didn't think, didn't breathe, just sprinted through the dark store, shoving through the front door so hard the glass cracked. Outside, the sky had turned the color of rust. The parking lot was empty, the world too quiet, like the sound had been sucked out of it. I fumbled for my keys. My hands were slick with sweat. I jumped into the car and slammed the locks down.
My phone was still inside the building.
I'd left it. I didn't care. I started the engine, slammed the accelerator, and tore down the highway. The gas station disappeared in the rearview mirror, a shrinking patch of darkness. I didn't stop until I hit the next town, where the streetlights actually worked and people still existed. I pulled over near a 24-hour diner, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. It was over. That's what I told myself. Until the phone rang. My other phone, the one I'd used before I bought the cursed one. I hadn't used it in weeks, but I'd kept it in the glove box, dead and disconnected. It was ringing. No SIM card. No service. But the screen lit up anyway.
Caller ID me.
I stared at it until the ringing stopped. Then a notification appeared. One new photo received. I opened it. It was me sitting in the car, hands on the wheel, eyes wide. But behind me, through the rear window, I could see the gas station. And the figure. Standing right where I'd been moments ago, head tilted toward the camera. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat and pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, trying to breathe. How could it still be following me if I'd left the phone behind? A soft thunk came from the trunk. I froze. Another thunk. I turned slowly in my seat. The back of the car was dark, the reflection in the rearview mirror too dim to see clearly. Then, vibration. Coming from somewhere inside the car. The buzzing got louder, rhythmic. I opened the door, stepped out into the cold night air, and walked around to the back. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. The trunk latch popped on its own. Inside, lying on top of the spare tire, was the cracked phone. The same one I'd left behind. The screen flickered to life. It opened the camera on its own. Front-facing. Recording. For a long moment, all I could see on the screen was my own face, pale under the fluorescent parking lot lights. Then, in the reflection of my eyes, something moved. I looked up. Across the lot, standing by the diner entrance, was a man in a hooded sweatshirt.
Tall. Thin.
Hands in his pockets. It was him.
Mark.
Or whatever was pretending to be him.
He didn't move toward me.
Just stood there, head tilted like he was studying me from a distance. My phone buzzed again. A text appeared on the cracked screen. You keep trying to delete me. Another followed. But I don't live in the phone. The screen glitched, static and streaks of color tearing across the image, and then cleared. A live video again. This time, the feed showed the inside of my car. Empty. Then the camera panned slowly toward the open driver's side door.
Toward me.
The man in the hoodie was gone. I felt a whisper against my ear, close enough that I could feel the breath. I live in you. I spun around, swinging my arm through empty air. No one there. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the pavement. The screen cracked again, lines spidering across the image. It was still recording, still filming me. And then I saw it, for the briefest second, right before the feed cut out. My own reflection on the screen. Smiling. But I wasn't. I don't remember driving home. Only fragments, headlights in the dark, the hollow thump of my pulse in my ears, the road stretching endlessly beneath me like a ribbon I'd never escape. When I finally came to, I was parked in my driveway. The house looked wrong. Every window black. Every curtain drawn. It felt like stepping into a version of my life that had already ended. I sat there for a long time, staring at the front door, trying to remember what it used to feel like to come home and not be afraid. The phone lay in the passenger seat, screen cracked, face down. It hadn't made a sound since that last whisper. I almost convinced myself it was over, that I'd broken whatever connection it had. Almost. I grabbed it, just to be sure. The screen flickered, faint light bleeding through the cracks. The gallery opened on its own. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of new photos filled the screen.
Every one of them was of me.
Driving, breathing, blinking. Every second since I'd left the gas station had been recorded. The final photo stopped me cold. It was me sitting in the car, the exact pose I was in now. Except in the picture, the front door of the house was open. I looked up.
It was.
Slowly I got out. The air was still, heavy with the scent of rain that hadn't fallen yet. I called out, "Hello." My voice disappeared into the dark. Inside, the house felt smaller than I remembered. Every step I took echoed against the walls. I checked each room, kitchen, living room, hallway, nothing. Then I heard it. From upstairs. A faint click. The sound of a camera shutter. I froze at the foot of the stairs, staring up into the dark. Another click. Then a soft vibration in my pocket. I pulled out the phone. The screen glowed with a new notification. One new photo. I opened it. It showed the staircase, the same angle I was standing at now. But in the photo, I was already halfway up. I should have run. I should have thrown the phone and left the house. Instead, I took a step up. Then another. Each creak of the wooden stairs sounded like a countdown. Halfway up, another photo appeared. This one was closer, just my face, lit by the phone's pale glow. My eyes looked empty. The next one came before I even heard the shutter. And in that photo, behind me, a figure was visible at the top of the stairs.
Tall. Still.
Watching. I stopped breathing. The air turned thick, almost wet, like the whole house was holding its breath with me. Then the phone buzzed again. Almost there. My throat tightened. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but my body kept moving. I climbed until I reached the landing. The hallway stretched out in front of me, doors on either side, all closed. The light from my phone barely reached the end. Something whispered from the last room on the left. My bedroom. I walked toward it, each step slower than the last. The door was open just an inch. Inside, I could see movement, the faint outline of someone sitting on the edge of my bed. For a second, I thought I was seeing my reflection again, that the phone was playing tricks, but then the person moved, tilting their head in that same broken, jerking motion I'd seen before. I lifted the phone. The camera turned on automatically, switching to video. The feed showed the figure more clearly now, wearing my clothes, sitting in my bed, head tilted, smiling.
Me.
It was me. The figure on the bed raised its own phone. And for a brief, impossible moment, the two screens synced, mine and his, infinite reflections of us staring into each other through layers of glass and light. Then the voice came, from both phones at once. "Do you understand now?" The sound was hollow, metallic, vibrating through the walls. I whispered, "What are you?" The thing in the bed tilted its head again, my head, and smiled wider. "I'm what watches when you stop." The lights flickered. The walls pulsed, like the house itself was breathing. The phone vibrated violently in my hand, dozens of notifications flooding the screen. One new photo. One new photo. One new photo. They came faster and faster until the screen turned to static. Then silence. When I looked up, the figure on the bed was gone. The only sound left was my own heartbeat. I turned slowly toward the mirror on the far wall and froze. In the reflection, the figure was still sitting there, watching me. I took a step forward, reaching out to touch the glass. My fingers met something cold, colder than glass, colder than anything I'd ever felt. And in that reflection, my other self raised the phone to his face.
Flash.
White light. For a second, the world went blank. When my vision came back, I was lying in bed. Morning light streamed through the blinds. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A new message. From unknown subject. "Good morning." Attached was a single photo. Me sleeping. Same angle as before. Same stillness. Same faint smile I swore I'd never make. Only one thing was different this time. In the reflection of my half-open eyes, you could see the phone. And on its cracked screen, the faint outline of someone else. Standing behind me. watching.